I shouldn't have knocked on her door that evening. But the way her porch light flickered, like it couldn't decide whether to stay or go, felt too much like her. Half here, half gone. She opened the door slower than I expected. She always did things that way, like she was measuring if the world deserved her time. Lights busted again, I said, holding up the little toolkit I'd borrowed from my father. It was a thin excuse. She could have called an electrician. She could have ignored it. But I wanted a reason, any reason, to stand there. She raised one eyebrow, arms crossed against the doorframe. Her blouse sleeves were rolled up, the faintest smudge of flour dusting her forearm. I must have interrupted something in her kitchen. "You fixing things now?" she asked, almost teasing. "Almost." I shrugged. "Trying." Her laugh came too quick, like she wanted to dismiss me before I got a chance to settle into her evening. But the laugh didn't last. It faltered into quiet, and then she stepped aside. "Fine. But don't break anything else." Her house smelled warm, like baked bread that never got eaten, like coffee left sitting just past its best hour. I set down the box and tried not to watch the way she moved around the kitchen, her hand brushing absently against the counter as if she needed the anchor. We didn't talk much. Not at first. I fiddled with wires, testing the bulb, unscrewing and screwing again. She poured herself a glass of water but didn't drink it. Every so often, I felt her eyes on me, then gone. Finally, she said, "Your trouble." I glanced down from the stepladder. "Am I?" Her lips pressed into something that wasn't quite a smile, wasn't quite disapproval either. "You shouldn't be here. I shouldn't let you." I swallowed back a reply, but it slipped out anyway. "Then why do you keep smiling?" She blinked. Once, twice, then turned away, pretending to tidy something on the counter. Her hands lingered longer than they should have on the dish towel. The silence stretched, heavy but alive. The kind of silence where the air feels warmer, where a man wonders if he's imagining it all. "You're young," she said finally, her back still turned. "Not that young," I answered. That made her laugh again, softer this time. She shook her head, like she wanted to erase the sound before it betrayed her. The light finally hummed steady overhead. Fixed, reliable, but my chest didn't feel steady at all. I climbed down slowly, too aware of how close I'd be to her once my feet hit the ground. "You really shouldn't be doing this," she murmured, eyes lowering as I set the screwdriver back in the box. "Neither should I." That's what I wanted to say. That's what I did say. Low enough it almost blended with the sound of her refrigerator clicking on in the background. For a moment, she didn't breathe. Or maybe I didn't. Her hand brushed mine when I passed her the bulb's cardboard box, and instead of pulling away, she left it there a heartbeat too long. The kitchen light glared too bright for the hour. It made her squint, made me see the tiny lines around her eyes that didn't make her older. They made her real. She lifted her gaze finally, steady this time, like she had decided something, and the corners of her mouth curved, just enough. "Leave the light on," she said. But she wasn't talking about the bulb. The light buzzed overhead, too steady, too bright. I wanted it to fail again, just so I'd have a reason to stay on that ladder, close enough to steal glances without needing excuses. But she was already putting distance between us, wiping her hands on that towel again, keeping busy with nothing. "You know you don't have to play handyman," she said. "I can take care of myself." "I know." My voice came out softer than I meant. "But you let me in anyway." Her eyes flicked to mine, quick, then away. It was only then I noticed the half-empty wine glass sitting at the corner of the counter. Red, not white. A lone glass, not paired with another. "Long day?" I asked before I could stop myself. She hesitated, then laughed, short and bitter. "You could say that. Long month. Long year." Something tightened in my chest. She wasn't the type to hand pieces of herself to anyone. But there it was, one small, fragile piece. "I'm sorry," I said. though I didn't know if I meant sorry for her year or for asking. She waved it off. Don't apologize. You're too young to be carrying other people's heaviness. There it was again. Young. Like a wall she needed to keep standing. I almost told her that I'd spent enough nights awake to carry my own share. That I wasn't just some neighbor kid with idle hands. But the words stayed stuck, and instead I watched her fingers turn the stem of the glass over and over, as if the motion kept her anchored. Do you ever? She stopped, shook her head. Never mind. What? I asked. She pressed her lips together, then forced a small smile. Do you ever feel like life already made its big decisions for you, and you're just filling in the rest of the pages? The question hung there, heavier than anything I'd expected tonight. Sometimes, I admitted, but maybe not all the pages are written yet. Her laugh this time was different, warmer, but laced with disbelief. You say that now. Wait until you're my age. I should have let it go, but I couldn't. You don't look like someone whose story's finished. That made her freeze, just for a second. Then she set down the glass carefully, like it might shatter with the wrong move. Her shoulders softened as if she'd lost the energy to keep them sharp. Your trouble, she whispered again, but quieter now, almost to herself. The kitchen clock ticked louder than it should have. I wanted to say something reckless, something that would cut through all her practiced restraint. Instead, I just stared at the way her hand rested against the counter, fingers tapping out a rhythm she didn't know she was keeping. She noticed me watching. Slowly, she reached for my arm. Not fully, not bold, but enough that her fingertips brushed the sleeve of my shirt. You don't have to go yet, she said. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if she was warning me or herself. Her words, you don't have to go yet, still sat in the air like they had weight. I should have laughed it off, said something light, but I couldn't. My chest tightened instead. I moved to sit at the small table, needing space, but she followed, carrying her glass with her. The chair across from me scraped the floor, and she sat down slowly, like she wasn't sure if this was a mistake. I don't usually let people in, she said after a pause. Not like this. Not in the middle of my mess. Her voice was quieter now, stripped of the sharp humor she always used as armor. I watched her hand circle the rim of the glass, watched how the red left faint stains at the edges. My throat felt dry. I don't mind the mess. That made her look at me, really look. For a second, neither of us moved. The clock ticked too loudly again, like it wanted to remind us that time hadn't stopped. Her phone buzzed on the counter, sudden, jolting. She flinched, and I caught the name that lit the screen before she turned it over. Mark. She didn't answer. She didn't explain either. Just pressed the phone flat to the counter and muttered, "He'll call again." I wanted to ask who Mark was. I wanted to know why her shoulders stiffened, why her eyes avoided mine. But something in me told me I didn't have the right. Not yet. Instead, I said, "You don't have to explain." Her gaze softened, tired, grateful, like she hadn't heard those words in a long time. She leaned back, sighing, and in that moment I almost told her the truth, that I couldn't stop thinking about her, that every excuse I made to come by was just that, an excuse. But I bit it back. Her hand shifted, brushing against mine on the table. Not deliberate, not accidental either. My pulse jumped. I told myself to pull back, to stand, to make some joke and end the tension. I didn't. Sometimes, she whispered, almost too low to hear, I think about starting over, just walking away from everything I already built and... She stopped herself, teeth catching her bottom lip. And what? I asked. My voice was rougher than I wanted. Her eyes flicked down at our hands, still barely touching. Her breath caught like she might say it, whatever it was. But then the knock came, harder than the phone's buzz. Both our heads turned. She stood too quickly, chair scraping, almost panicked. I stayed frozen, every nerve awake. She pressed her hand against her chest, steadying herself before moving to the door. She glanced back once, eyes wide, unreadable. The knock came again, louder, and all I could think was, if she opens that door, everything changes. She opened the door halfway, her body angled like a shield. From where I sat, I could only see a sliver of the figure outside. Just a man's voice, asking if she was home, if she had a moment. Her reply was clipped, polite but final. Not tonight. The pause stretched. Then footsteps retreated down the walkway. She shut the door quickly, leaning against it for a breath longer than necessary. When she turned back, her composure was cracked. A flush along her neck, her lips pressed too tight. She didn't look like the woman who always carried herself with certainty. "Friend?" I asked carefully. Her laugh was sharp, humorless. "Something like that." She poured the last of the wine, but her hand trembled as she set the bottle down. "Everyone wants something. That's the thing no one tells you when you're young. They want you to be steady, reliable, perfect. And when you stop being those things, they go knocking on someone else's door." Her voice broke on that last word. I should have looked away, given her space, but I couldn't. "You don't have to be perfect," I said. "Not with me." She stared at me then, the kind of stare that makes your skin heat. Her defenses dropped all at once, and it was almost unbearable seeing her like that, unguarded. "You're too young to say things like that," she whispered. "Or maybe you're too used to people saying the wrong things," I countered. Silence. Just the tick of the clock, the faint hum of the fridge. She gripped the stem of her glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. Then she set it down, decisive, almost reckless. She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the faint sheen in her eyes, close enough that her perfume cut through the smell of wine and bread and warm light. "I don't know what I'm doing," she confessed, voice low, raw. "I shouldn't let you sit here. I shouldn't let you look at me the way you do." I swallowed hard. "Then tell me to stop." Her chest rose sharply. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back up. She didn't say it. She didn't tell me to stop. Instead, she whispered, "You're dangerous." The space between us collapsed. Not with a kiss, not yet, but with the kind of silence that's louder than words, heavier than touch. I felt it, the brink, the edge of something neither of us could take back. My hand hovered, stupidly, dangerously, above hers on the table. I couldn't make it fall. Not yet. She leaned closer, breath brushing my cheek. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked, almost like she was daring me. I didn't answer. Couldn't. The silence after that question felt like it might break the room in half. Her question still burned in the air. "Why do you keep coming back?" I should have answered, but the words lodged in my throat. Instead, I stared at the way her hand hovered just inches from mine, both of us pretending not to notice. Then her phone buzzed again. The screen lit against the counter, and I saw the name this time. Mark. She didn't reach for it. She just closed her eyes, shoulders sagging, and whispered, "He doesn't give up." I forced the question. "Who is he?" Her laugh came brittle. "Ex-husband. Or almost. The papers aren't signed yet." Something dropped in me. Not jealousy, not relief, but a sudden understanding of the tightness in her voice, the caution in her eyes. "So all this time," I started. "All this time," she cut in. "I've been trying to keep myself together while everyone else is waiting for me to fall apart." Her honesty caught me off guard. It wasn't flirtation now, wasn't careful deflection. It was raw, unpolished, the kind of truth that makes the room smaller. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You don't have to hold everything by yourself." She looked at me sharply, like I'd said something dangerous. "Don't do that," she said. "Do what?" "Make me believe you mean it." The words landed like a slap, half defense, half plea. My chest tightened. She thought I was playing a game, thought I'd walk away once it got complicated. I shook my head. I wouldn't be here if I didn't mean it. Her lips parted, ready to answer, but then the knock came again. This time harder, insistent. My stomach turned cold. She stood abruptly, hand pressing to her forehead. He doesn't stop. He knows I'm not good at slamming doors. The knock rattled through the house again, and without thinking, I stood too. Then let me... No, she snapped it sharp, then softened. If he sees you here, it'll get worse. He'll twist it. He always does. Her words stopped me cold. A flash of her life I hadn't seen before. A life where she was cornered, explained, justified, always shrinking. She looked at me, really looked, and whispered, "This is why I shouldn't let you in. You don't know the history you're stepping into." And then, quieter, "But part of me wants you to." The knock stopped. Silence pressed in, heavier than before. I didn't move. She didn't either. We stood in the middle of her kitchen, the bulb I'd fixed buzzing faintly above us, her phone still glowing with his name. Something had shifted. Not just tension anymore, but revelation. She wasn't untouchable. She wasn't unreachable. She was breakable, and she'd just let me see it. And I knew, in that instant, I couldn't walk away. The silence after that last knock stretched long enough to feel permanent. Her phone was still glowing on the counter, but she didn't reach for it. She didn't move at all. She just stood there, breathing like she'd run a mile without leaving the kitchen. Finally, she spoke, voice low, steady but trembling underneath. "You don't understand what this costs me. Even letting you sit here, it feels like I'm gambling with the little I've got left." I stepped closer, slow, like approaching something fragile. "Then why not shut the door on me? You had chances. Every time I came by, you could have said no." Her lips tightened. "Because you make me forget the rules I live by." The words hit harder than I expected. My chest burned. Every excuse I'd been telling myself falling apart. "I'm not here to make trouble for you," I said, my voice rough. I can't stay away." She finally looked at me, really looked, and her eyes shone with something more dangerous than anger. Want, buried deep and clawing its way out. "You think I don't feel it?" she whispered. "Every time you look at me like that, I feel 20 again, and I hate it, because it won't last. It never does." I swallowed hard. Maybe not, but what if this right here is the part that matters? Even if it doesn't last forever. Her hand twitched against her side. For a moment I thought she'd push me back. End it. Instead, she closed the gap. Her fingers brushed mine, hesitant, then lingered. The touch was small, but it burned through me like nothing else. "I shouldn't," she murmured, voice catching. "Neither should I breathed back. The space between us disappeared. Not careful, not slow, just inevitable. Her hand found my arm, gripping as though she needed proof I was real. My forehead rested against hers, and I felt the trembling she tried so hard to hide. It wasn't a perfect kiss, not the kind in stories. It was sharp, almost clumsy, years of restraint breaking in one reckless moment. She pulled me in like she'd been starving, like she hated herself for it but couldn't stop. When we broke apart, she pressed her hand against my chest, holding me there, her breath unsteady. "This changes everything," she whispered. "Good," I said without thinking. "It should." Her laugh was shaky, wet at the edges, but real. She shook her head, forehead brushing mine again. "You're still trouble. And you're still smiling," I whispered back. She didn't deny it this time. The house was quiet again. No knocking, no buzzing phone. Just the sound of her breath and mine, tangled together in the kitchen's too bright light. We didn't talk about tomorrow. We didn't talk about him. For once, there was no rule left between us. Only the choice we'd just made. The kitchen felt different after that kiss. Too bright, too quiet, like the walls were holding their breath along with us. She pulled back first, just enough to look at me. Her eyes weren't guarded anymore. They were wide open, raw, showing me everything she'd been hiding under the laughter, the sharp comebacks, the rules she lived by. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. "I know," I said, "but I'd do it again." Her lips trembled into something like a smile, but it wasn't playful this time. It was tired, relieved, almost grateful. She sank into the chair, elbows on the table, hands in her hair like she'd finally let go of a weight. "You have no idea how long it's been since someone made me feel seen," she admitted. I sat across from her, leaning in. "Then let me keep doing it." Her laugh was soft, breaking. "You don't know what you're asking for. I've got an ex who doesn't let go, a life that feels too tangled, and years that'll always be ahead of you. You deserve someone who doesn't come with all that." I shook my head. "Maybe, but I don't want someone else. I want you." The silence after that wasn't heavy anymore. It was calm, like a truth had finally settled in the room. She reached across the table, hand finding mine without hesitation this time. The warmth of her grip told me she believed me, or at least wanted to. For the first time that night, the buzzing phone stayed unanswered. The knocking didn't return. It was just us, choosing not to hide anymore. Something had changed. Not the world outside, not the problems waiting at her doorstep, but between us. She wasn't just the woman who told me I was trouble. And I wasn't just the boy who kept making excuses to fix her lights. We'd both stopped pretending. When I finally stood to leave, she walked me to the door. The porch light glowed steady now, no longer flickering, casting her face in soft gold. "You'll regret this," she said, though her hand still held my arm like she didn't want to let go. "Then I'll regret it with you," I answered. Her laugh, real this time, not bitter, not forced, followed me down the steps. It was the kind of sound that stays in your chest long after it's gone. And I knew I'd come back. Not for broken bulbs or excuses. For her. For us. Because sometimes the trouble you choose is the only thing that makes you feel alive.